What's up, guys? This is the No Call podcast, and today I'm your host, Patrick, here with Gavin. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on in college football. I think the before we get into playoff, which is like the elephant in the room, I think we should talk about playoff expansion because it's a big deal now and it's happening.
Well, in my humble opinion, I think it should have gone to 8, not 12. I think it should be a thing, but I don't think it should go past 8 personally.
Yeah, I think 8 would have been better too. I look at 12 and I just don't think there's enough separation between the fourth ranked team and the fifth ranked team.
Yeah. But like, bro, I'm sorry, but like I don't want poverty ass fucking FSU in the playoff every year. I cannot handle that.
Dude, yeah. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen with playoff expansion. It's gonna be interesting because I feel like we're gonna have a lot of blowouts still. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like the first round games are a lot better. I
Nah,
kind of
bro.
like how there's some campus
Stop it.
games.
Stop it. Dude, can you imagine Tulane at Penn State in Happy Valley? Like, dude, no.
Okay, but maybe I think we should give Tulane a chance though. Like
It doesn't matter.
they beat Kansas State. Okay, you got to give them that. They beat Kansas State this year.
Cool,
I
Kansas
think they
State's
could.
poverty.
You don't think they could beat Penn State?
Tulane? No
I mean, they
way.
beat Kansas State, who beat TCU.
That's dude, transitive property never works. That doesn't work. It doesn't matter.
But they still did it. I mean, they're not a bad team.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Listen. 7 times out of 10, does Penn State beat Tulane?
No, they win 10 times out of 10.
10 times out of 10. I don't know.
Okay, any above average Power 5 team would have whooped Tulane this year. Sure, okay. Sure, use the Kansas State. Sure, whatever.
That is a really good win. Okay, that is a really good win.
Sure, it's a solid win for them, not for anybody else. Dude, I think Iowa would have beaten Tulane. I'm
okay.
dead
Which
serious.
Iowa are we talking? Are we talking second half season Iowa?
Second half
or
season
first
Iowa.
season? Okay, second half, yes, probably. I'd lean Iowa, but I think Tulane could get it done. Okay, I think they're capable.
Nebraska without Scott Frost could have won that game. I'm just saying, bro.
I don't know. I don't know.
That was a bad take. That was a bad take.
Okay. We're just joking here. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but I think 8 teams is definitely the sweet spot because like then you'll get like 4 conference champs, probably like the 4 highest automatically, basically. And then you'll have like some other teams like Bama, whose fans always cry even though they're in the playoffs or whatever.
I think if there's one positive with 12 teams is that all the Power 5 champions will get in. So like the Pac-12 will always have a representative.
That's true.
You'll always have your group of 5 teams that are like good that will get in. But, at the same time, I still don't know how it's going to look like, how is it going to play out? Because we already see so many blowouts in the college football playoff. Like each year there's just this team that just gets destroyed. And that's crazy. Like I mean, it's going to be weird seeing, like just thinking about like what's going to happen. What is it going to look like? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I think 8 would have been better though.
Yeah, because at least with like 8, like that like there will be like maybe like let's say like Georgia next year, they go 11-1 in the regular season or 12-0 in the regular season. Then they lose to Alabama, but there's already like 3 other teams that are like 12-0. So like, and there's like another team that's like 12-1 conference champ, and like that team will get in over them, and then they'll probably be at 5. So like that's a good example of like why it should be 8, because like Georgia, like I don't know, in a 12-team playoff, if they're 5 playing first round at home, whoever's 12 is gonna lose. Like
that's true.
Like I don't like it does. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. Like for the matchup, I don't know.
And like the other thing too is like if we had an 18 playoff, we could still have campus games too.
Yeah.
1 could still play 8, 2 could still play 7, 3 could still play 6. 4 and 5 is unfortunate, but like it's like something's gonna happen. Like sometimes people are gonna get the short end, or teams are gonna get the short end of the stick. It's just a part of the sport.
Yeah, but would they have formatted it like that, like 1 versus 8, like all those first, or would they have done it like neutral site games? I think they would have done it neutral site, but
They probably would have done it neutral site, but I do like the idea of campus games. I think there's a good way to it's a good way to reward conference champions. I think that's the biggest thing that the committee really wanted to do, but I do feel like 8 would have been better right now, but who knows, maybe 12 teams work. Maybe like it will work out. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
talking about the 12-team playoff, who are some teams that you think benefit from having a 12-team playoff now?
Well, the obvious example or the obvious teams I would point to are like any group of 5 teams, right?
Yeah.
Your Tulanes of the world, your Cincinnati, well, Cincinnati's in the Big 12 now.
Oh.
Your Memphises of the world. And then like some of the Sun Belt teams might get in. So like if we had a 12 team
Sunbelt.
playoff, I don't know, Coastal Carolina, they could
Eh.
have made a stab if well, I think they had a bad loss that year. I can't remember the 2020 season.
Yeah, I don't remember who they lost to, but I know they lost.
But it does open the possibility up for another group of 5 team to get in.
Hmm.
Because I think there's still only one guaranteed spot. Maybe there's two. I think there's one. But
There is one. It's the
even
highest group of
then,
5 team.
you always wonder like because there's been past years in the sport where there were two really good group of 5 teams.
Yeah, like when was it? 2019. Like Cincinnati was good and Memphis had a really good team that year.
And even before realignment, it was always TCU and Boise State. And I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe we get like another Boise State. I'm hoping Boise State, by the way, just off topic comment. I wish they would just become a powerhouse again because that was
Yeah,
so
I miss
funny.
Boise State.
Just a random college in Idaho just balling out. It was crazy,
Dude,
just crushing Georgia. I mean, that was insane.
it wasn't Georgia. It was who was that? That was Oklahoma, right?
Well, they did that in the Fiesta Bowl, but they played
Yeah.
Georgia in 2010. It was like a neutral site regular season.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But you know what college I want to get back on the map? Blue Mountain State. That's who I want back
Yeah,
on the
we need
map.
blue. Yeah, I agree. I agree. We need Blue Mountain State to get in the playoff conversation. All
Yeah.
right.
If you know, you know. But
If you know, you
I
know. Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
right. If you know, you know.
Um, but who are like some Power Five teams now that benefit from it a lot more from it going from 4 to 12?
Power 5 teams that benefit. Um, the first one that comes to mind, people are gonna say this is my Big Ten bias speaking. Penn State, okay? Penn
Yeah,
State
that's
benefits so much because now, as long as they look good outside of the Ohio State and Michigan games that they probably lose to, like
yeah.
they're in. That's the thing. They look pretty good this year, all things considered. They have a strong defense. They just can't get over the Ohio State and the Michigan roadblock. And
Yeah.
like, and if it was a 12-team playoff, they'd be playing Ohio State, I believe, in this playoff. I think.
Um,
I think they're
what
ranked
when are
12th. I
they?
could be wrong.
No, are they? I thought they were ranked 11th.
They might be 11th. You might be right.
But I was thinking of like a Utah. Like they're normally around like 8 to 12, like in that range. And I feel like
Utah
they
would
would
benefit too because they would have been in the playoff as the
no,
fourth seed, actually. I think,
yeah,
or
because they were the
maybe fifth
champs.
seed. Maybe Kansas State is above them.
Some, yeah, I
Well,
think
no,
can.
they would. I don't know. I got to think about it.
No, they would have been above because I think Kansas State's ranked 10th right now and Utah's
Yeah,
ranked
you're
8th.
right. You're right. But
But
even then, it would have been the 14. I actually, yeah, they would have been the fourth team, I think, because if it was a 12-team playoff, it would have been Georgia, Michigan, Kansas State, Utah, because they go to the or no, Clemson would have been in there over
no, well,
Utah,
oh yeah, yeah, because Clemson won.
unless their ranking is different. I cannot even remember the rankings. I just see the playoff rankings, and it's like all the other rankings just go out the window for
Yeah.
me.
What for bowl season after the top four, it doesn't really matter the rankings. It just matters like the games.
That's true. That's true. And, again, maybe the 12-team playoff helps the games matter because we're going to see more teams actually care.
Yeah, especially like for example, dude, next like Texas next year, they might do a little something. I don't know. Like we say that
It's
every
like
year,
any
but
teams that win their conference or win their conference, it helps. It helps tremendously if they
yeah.
are able to win their conference. That's just how it goes.
Ooh. What is the impact? This is kind of off topic, but what is the impact of Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF joining the Big 12 next year?
You know, the Big 12 is in its most stable state in years. And that's crazy to say because um, in many times in years past, it seemed like the Big 12 was headed for basically like a disaster. Like they could break up at any moment. But even with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, they're now super stable and they can expand in the future at this point. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they go after Fresno State, Boise State, Colorado State. I mean, there's some markets they can acquire, you know.
Yeah, but as being a student at UC, I'm kind of hyped. I'm kind of hyped, but it's gonna
You
be
should
very
be.
exciting.
You got that
Especially
West Virginia rivalry coming back. That's great.
plus, like if we have like Texas or Oklahoma at home next year, that would be crazy.
And yeah, speaking of UC, man, Luke Fickle has
Oh
put
my
that
God.
program on the map forever. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, they are in a crazy good state. And, you know, who knows? They like, again, Cincinnati, if they ever win the Big 12 soon, they're in the playoff now with this 12-team playoff.
Oh,
That's just
yeah,
how it goes.
or even if they go 10-2, and like they beat like a, let's say because Texas and Oklahoma are still in the Big 12 for 2 more years, but like let's say one of the 2 years they beat Texas but not Oklahoma or vice versa, but they win like the rest of their games and lose some other game, like they would still probably get in the playoff at like
Oh,
12.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy with how this realignment has affected college football. We're seeing so many teams jump to the top division, and that's crazy.
Yeah, which also, do you think the Big Ten or the SEC should pick up anybody else?
Oh man, that's hard. I think if you're the SEC, the only people you can really expand to at this point are like the top-notch programs. So that's Clemson, Florida State. I don't know if there's anybody you can like pick up outside of that region
Mm-hmm.
because the SEC is in a unique spot where while a lot of conferences are trying to get into certain TV markets, the SEC they have so many like name brands, you know,
Yeah, like Alabama, Georgia, Auburn,
and they can
Tennessee.
stick in that region and they're going to make so much money because the brands in the SEC are some of the biggest brands in college sports, you know, and
Yeah,
they can just stay in that region and you know anything will go for them. I don't know if they can really pick up anybody. As for the Big Ten can still make a lot of gains. That USC UCLA pickup is huge. I mean, even though the SEC is going to be the premier Big Ten or premier college football conference, I mean,
yeah.
the Big Ten is going to be like the revenue machine. They're going to make more money than the SEC just because of those markets alone and those programs alone. And so, even though the SEC is going to be the top college football conference, I think the Big Ten is going to be the top conference just overall, the top brand. But
Yeah.
they could still they could still make their brand even bigger. Um, it's not going to happen probably anytime soon because the ACC's right agreements and whatever between the schools and stuff is they have like a huge buyout that I think is until 2036. You know, it's a ways away, but I would imagine like if the Big Ten were to add somebody like Georgia Tech, you know, that would be huge for the conference because
Georgia
it's a
Tech.
good academic institution.
That
It's
doesn't
right in the
matter.
South. I
Georgia
mean,
Tech
that's like
sucks.
huge. The Atlanta market is crazy though. Okay. It's like that's the thing. Like it's still a prestigious school that has at least some like respectable football history. The recent years have been quite disappointing to say the least,
Oh,
but
they have
they can
Calvin
always turn
Johnson.
it around. It's not out of like possibility. I mean, them being in the Atlanta area is like enough of a grab. Atlanta's a big TV market. I don't know who else they could add. Like, I don't know if there's any point in getting someone like Boston College right now. Even Oregon and Washington. I think the LA market is just like the big market they needed in that area. So it becomes more difficult. I guess the other thing they could do is maybe try and pick up someone in the Texas area, but that's a little complicated too. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma were rumored years and years and years ago to possibly join the Big Ten, but obviously that's not going to happen. Um, Picking up Kansas or Iowa State is there's no reason to because they have the TV markets around those areas and stuff. I feel like Missouri would be a good fit, but Big Ten's a really stickler about those prestigious academic institutions, which I wish they would lessen, their want to get those like bigger schools because Missouri is like would fit really well in the Big Ten, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like if they could get Notre Dame, because like already like the
Hmm.
inbuilt rivalries are already like a huge school. Like that would be a really like monumental pickup for
Yeah,
them
I
if they
left
could
out
get Notre
Notre Dame
Dame.
because I felt like that was like the obvious one. I just don't think Notre Dame is ever going to join a conference anytime soon. I just
Which
don't see it
is
happening.
highly disappointing,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I wish Notre Dame would join a conference, and they'd fit right in the Big Ten too. I mean, I feel like Notre Dame Ohio State could become like a maybe I don't know if you'd call it a rivalry game, but it would become like a premier college football game. Notre Dame Penn State used to be a rivalry that would like reignite a rivalry, and then obviously you got Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, like those are big games,
USC
obviously.
because they're joining the
USC,
Big
yeah,
Ten.
USC would be a big one. Even UCLA, like that's a premier game that Notre Dame could play as well.
Alrighty, shall we get into some of the bowl game talk?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. So first game, let's go through, and that's going to be Tennessee versus Clemson.
The Orange Bowl. It's the actual Orange Bowl. Okay, it's Tennessee and Clemson. I
Yeah.
want them to wear their home jerseys.
God, that would be so annoying to look
It would
at,
be
but
it would be so funny, dude. The Orange Bowl. It's an orange versus orange matchup. I mean, come on, that'd be great. You can't lie. It would be funny. Okay, it would be amazing.
it would be pretty funny.
Who do you think's gonna win though? Because I mean, we
I,
got obviously Clemson's gonna start Klubnik. It seems. It seems like I think Uungalele is already like he already left. I'm pretty sure. And then we have
yeah.
on the Tennessee sideline former Michigan quarterback Joe Milton starting. I
Sorry,
had to
Joe.
throw that in there as painful as it was, but
Uh, my only Joe Milton memory is him just chucking a pick to Brendan White, so it's fine.
there's better memories as an Ohio State fan when we didn't lose two straight, you know.
Yeah, but in my opinion, Tennessee versus Clemson, I personally think this might be a blowout, and like, but I think Clemson will win.
I think Clemson's going to win, and I think it's going to be by at least 14 points.
Yeah,
That's my
because
prediction.
Tennessee, they're not going to have Hooker. I would assume Tillman and Hyatt aren't playing.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I mean, I would assume so because it's not a playoff game. And when Clemson is playing with Klubnik at quarterback, they are a completely different team and they're
Yeah,
a better team.
is Shipley playing? You think? Oh
I
yeah, he's
think
a
so.
sophomore. He's a
Yeah, he's a
sophomore.
sophomore. He should be playing. But anyways, I think Clemson's going to win and I think they're going to win convincingly.
I would agree. Like the only way Tennessee stays in this game is if they force like a couple picks from like a freshman quarterback, but I don't know if they can do that. Tennessee's
That's
defense got
true.
picked apart against Georgia, and we'll get to that later. But um, next bowl game, Alabama versus Kansas State.
You know, Alabama's gonna have Bryce Young. I don't think they have any inactives from what I'm hearing, which is not the norm in today's college football. And
Mhm.
I really like this Kansas State team. I think Chris Kleiman has done a great job with the Wildcats, but Alabama's going to win this game. and I think they're going to win by a lot. Nick Saban doesn't usually squander, big opportunities or just like even if it's a consolation prize, he usually wins these games. I'd be
Oh,
shocked if Kansas State wins.
mind you, it's the Sugar Bowl. You know how Alabama does in the Sugar Bowl. So,
That is true. They did lose to Bob Stoops, Oklahoma,
yep,
a
they lost to
couple
Bob
years
Stoops.
back, or it's crazy how that was like 8 years ago or
That was
whatever,
longer than that. That was like
9
10.
years ago, a decade ago. That's crazy.
They lost to Oklahoma and then they lost to Ohio State. But yeah, I agree. I think this Kansas State team's a pretty solid team, but with Alabama having Bryce Young and Will Anderson, I think Alabama would probably win between like if I can give you like a score like 38-20.
Yeah, and at the same time too, do you really think Alabama's going to finish the season with Nick Saban right now with 3 losses? Like
Oh, no.
there's just no way. There's no way they can lose this game. If Kansas State does win, though, I'll eat my words and I'll give them props though, because that
Yeah.
would be the best win in recent memory for the program. I mean,
Yeah.
just to beat Alabama. I'd be shocked if they win, though. If it was like different and Alabama somehow got in the playoff or something, and it was like Tennessee with Joe Milton playing Kansas State, maybe because we don't know what, Tennessee is going to look like with Joe Milton. But I don't see Kansas State winning. I just don't.
Yeah, I agree. All right. The next one, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, USC versus Tulane.
You know, I think
Don't,
there's an upset
don't,
alert. I
no,
think I think
shut
there's an
up.
upset
Shut,
alert
no
with that.
way.
Listen, with that USC defense, okay?
It doesn't
Anything can
matter.
happen. Anything can happen.
They're also good at like helping like getting picks and stuff like that. So it doesn't matter, dude.
Tulane almost upset Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma in 2021 or 2020, whatever it was. I think they could do it this time. I really think they could be a Lincoln Riley team. I'm going to say this because USC is coming off a loss. I'm going to pick USC because I
Okay.
think they're going to rebound. And I think that Caleb Williams is the best player in college football, and he's going to want to
Is he
go
healthy
out and
though?
show up.
Is he healthy coming off of that what was it, hamstring injury?
I think he might be recovering still. I think either way, I think he'll play probably. And even if he doesn't, like those Lincoln Riley offenses are just crazy. I mean, they put up so many points. If they had a really, really good defense in those Lincoln Riley Oklahoma years, they would be going to national championships.
Oh
Just
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how they just haven't figured it out. It's insane to me.
I think there's a common problem in it, and I think it's their defensive coordinator, which is it's Alex Grinch, correct?
That's true.
I'm just saying, like he's not a good defensive coordinator, but
Well, Grinch did really well at Washington State, and he had a lot of hype. And to his credit, he did make Oklahoma better, but better isn't always good enough. And that's the
true.
question. Can he make them good enough? Can he make them a championship caliber defense? Because I mean, Oklahoma was getting a better defense by the time Lincoln Riley left and then took him over to USC and whatever. USC did force a lot of takeaways, but I mean, you can force takeaways all you want. If you're giving up so many yards, if you can't tackle, you're not going to win the big game.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. That's why USC didn't beat Utah. Utah was just a better coached football team, and their fundamentals were better, and that's why they won. I think that Tulane has a shot just because of USC's defense. I just can't trust USC to win alone on their defense, but I do think USC is gonna probably. I think they're gonna win probably by about 10, maybe 17, and it's one of those games where Tulane hangs around for 3 quarters and like USC pulls away, but I think, especially if Caleb Williams plays, I don't think USC is going to lose. I think they're going to rebound. This might be one of those games like Penn State Memphis, a couple
Oh
years
yeah.
back. Might be a high scoring game, a fun game to watch, but ultimately USC is just a better team, and I think they're going to win.
Yeah, but I'm also gonna take USC. Depending, I think it does depend on Caleb Williams' health because if he does not play, who's their back? I don't even know who their backup quarterback
I
is.
don't know
Probably
who
like
their backup is either. I've
okay.
been out of the loop this season compared
I
to
yeah,
prior
same.
seasons.
But yeah, I think with Caleb Williams, I think USC probably wins the game 45-37, something like that. Like it's gonna be kind of close, but like it doesn't feel that close. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But USC, a big hire they need is Jim Leonard. If Jim Leonard goes to USC, that would be a huge pickup.
That would be a massive pickup for Lincoln Riley. And I'm kind of surprised that Luke Fickle didn't keep him
Retain
around,
him.
or maybe he just wanted to leave because I'm pretty sure they Fickle met with Jim Leonard. But either way, I mean, and with USC and NIL and how they were dishing out these stupid crazy contracts, I'm sure they could just get Jim Leonard. Hey, come take a break in Cali, Southern Cal, and then like coach one of the most talented teams in college football. It's just I wouldn't be surprised if USC is a national title contender with Jim Leonard in a couple of years. It wouldn't shock me at all.
No. Alrighty. The last bowl game before the big two. All right, we got Penn State versus Utah in the Rose Bowl game.
Penn State and Utah. That I love this game so much. Um, this is probably the best non-playoff New Year's Six game, undoubtedly. I think it has the potential to be a fun one. You know, these are two teams that want to prove something. Utah can get a Rose Bowl win. James Franklin could finally get another marquee win. It's just a good opportunity for both teams.
For me, I would agree, but I think Utah, I think has the edge right now. I think they're just on fire. But Penn State, they have a solid team and they both play very similarly. Like they both want to run the ball. They have
True.
physical defenses. They have like a quarterback that can make plays with their legs. I think one's better than the other one. I think Cam Rising is better than Sean Clifford. But I think they're two similar style teams that want to play the same way. But I think Utah will edge them out.
Yeah, I think I got to pick Utah too. I think Kyle Whittingham has coached a team that really, really wants it, and they almost beat Ohio State last year. You could say they probably should have beaten Ohio State maybe if they capitalized on missed opportunities and whatever. But in Penn State, I have a lot of respect for Penn State too. They're both similar teams. They both have a really tough defenses, and they're both going to be hungry. And I think it has a potential to be like a classic Rose Bowl. But I'm
Mhm.
going to go with Utah by 3. I'm going to say 3.
I'm gonna say Utah wins this game. I'm gonna have it even closer than that. I think they win on a last second field goal. I think they win 31-30.
Ooh, I like that prediction. I like that prediction a lot. That's a fun one.
Alrighty. Now we're down to the big two.
The big
We
one.
got TCU versus Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl.
This is an interesting one because it's TCU's first time in the playoff. I know their fans probably feel like they should have been in the playoff 8 years ago. I want TCU to win, and that's obvious because I'm an Ohio State fan, and I would really like TCU to win because it'd be funny. But at the same time, having another crack at Michigan would be really cool. It wouldn't be cool though if we lose again. That would not be cool.
Yeah, I also want TCU to win, but I know that Michigan is the better team. I know that for a fact. I think top to bottom, I think Michigan probably has better players almost at every single position. But I think um I know TCU has they have a really good quarterback, Max Duggan. I know they have a really good wide receiver in Quentin Johnson. I know they have a really good corner in LaDainian Tomlinson's, I believe that's his nephew, right?
Maybe I
Um,
can't remember all their players.
but he's a very good corner. And I know they have very good individual players throughout the team, but it's just depending on how well TCU plays together, especially on offense. Because if if offensively, if they can get going early and get ahead of Michigan, Michigan normally does start slow. And if they can limit the
That's
big
true.
plays, if they can
Yeah.
limit the big plays, I think they can stay in the game and keep it close.
Well, the X factor in this game has to be Max Duggan.
Yes.
Max Duggan, if like TCU is going to win, it's going to go through Max Duggan. And if they're going
Correct.
to win, they're going to just have to outscore Michigan because while I think TCU has gotten a bad rap more than they need to, at the end of the day, Michigan, from like a position by position standpoint, like you said, is better at most positions besides obviously quarterback. But I think this has a potential to be a really good game. I feel like it's either going to be a close win for TCU or it's going to be like a convincing win for Michigan. I feel like those are like the two likely outcomes.
Yeah. But another X factor for me is Donovan Edwards.
That's true.
If Donovan Edwards can get going, if he can get downhill, it's very hard to tackle him with his speed. He reminds me a lot of Travis Etienne. I feel like this Michigan team might be like the 19 Clemson team, like minus obviously having Trevor Lawrence. So like they both have phenomenal defenses. They both have Etienne, Edwards. Uh, it's gonna be, I don't know, very interesting comp, I guess. But I for the game against TCU though, I think it's also gonna be a close game. I could see TCU winning, but I think I'm gonna have to choose Michigan to win. I think I'll have Michigan winning. I'm gonna have them winning 38-27.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you probably think they're going to just pull away late. Like TCU is going to hang in there, but ultimately it just won't be enough.
Yes.
This game is it's definitely like an interesting playoff matchup because usually we've seen, Clemson and Alabama either playing Ohio State or Georgia or something like that. You know what I mean? And these are like obviously Michigan, they made it to the playoff last season. They're in the playoff again, but they're facing a new blood in the playoff in TCU. I'm interested to see what Sonny Dykes does in his first game, or first playoff game in his first season with TCU. I think he has like potential to be a really, really, really good coach. He's a really good coach right now, but a win here in the playoff would obviously, be the next step in his like progression and everything. And TCU has a really good offense, and if there's anything going for them, it's that offense. And it reminds me a little bit, Oklahoma playing Georgia in the Rose Bowl. Oklahoma
Yeah.
almost got it done.
They should have won that game.
Should have won that game. And even though Georgia was like Michigan had like better head to head in most positions, Oklahoma, with Baker Mayfield, they kept it in the game. They kept themselves in the game. And you never know. It might just take just one turnover by TCU's defense. TCU can get outplayed, but teams make mistakes. You never know. Like Michigan's well disciplined, but so was Georgia against Oklahoma, and it might just take one mistake to keep TCU in the game. At the end of the day, though, I gotta go with Michigan. I just think Michigan's the better team. I think they're gonna get it done.
Alrighty. Do you have a score prediction for that or no?
If I had to give a score prediction, I'm gonna go 34-24. Let's do that.
Alrighty. Now, to the biggest game of the evening. We got Ohio State versus Georgia.
This is the game that everybody's been waiting for in the playoff. Ohio State and Georgia. It's crazy how these two teams have not played each other in the college football playoff era.
Yeah, well, we haven't played them since I think we played them one time in 1993 and we
That's
lost.
crazy.
And I believe it was in the Sugar Bowl. I could be wrong. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. In my head, there's two key things for Ohio State to win. It is defensive line pressure, and it is can we get the run game going or not. I know all of the Georgia fans and all the SEC fans are be like, well, you can't run on Georgia, but I'm be like, the thing is, if you want to beat Georgia, you have to somehow get the play action pass going. You have to somehow
Oh
get
yeah.
like rushing yards. For example, when we played Alabama in 2014, like Zeke had like a couple long runs to keep the Alabama defense honest. So like we need something from Mayan Williams or Dallin
And
Hayden or
we
whoever it
heard
is.
we heard Alabama fans in 2014 say Ohio State had no chance, they couldn't run on us, and we ended up giving them the longest run on their defense that season. So, you never know. Like, this is college football. Anything can happen in the right moment.
Yeah,
Georgia is obviously the better team, top to bottom. I think we can agree with that.
yeah.
The one thing Ohio State does have, though, is Marvin Harrison. And if there's anybody who can put a lot of pressure on the Georgia cornerbacks, it's gonna be Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison, he wins those 50 game or 50-50 balls, you know.
Yeah.
He's a guy who can just go up and get it.
Well, if there's two players on each team you should watch out for in this game, who would they be?
For Ohio State, I would say to try to pick a we're doing two for each team or one from each team.
Two for each team.
So for Ohio State, I would say it's definitely has to be Marvin Harrison. And then I'd say on the defensive side of the ball, it would be JT or Jalen Tuimoloau. I think those are the two players who are going to be guys that have to make a difference if Ohio State needs to win.
Yeah.
Tuimoloau has to have a Penn State level performance, pretty
I don't know
much a
about that.
super.
That Penn State game, that was probably the best defensive end game almost of all time.
I mean, he's going to have to show up though. That's basically what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
he's not just going to have to do his part. He's going to have to
Yeah.
do more than his part. He's going to have to really have a great game if they want to have a chance to win. And that you can apply that to anybody on the defense, like if you got guys just making mental errors like they did against Michigan, this game might get out of hand really quickly. I say
Yeah.
it, even though Michigan won by 22 against Ohio State had them on the ropes for a little bit. They had a chance to ice the game. People may not want to admit that, but it's true. They had a chance to ice the game, and they didn't, and it cost them.
Yeah. But who are two of Georgia's players that we should look out for in this game?
Well, obviously, Stetson Bennett is like one you got to point to. Stetson Bennett is going to have another really good game. Obviously, I have a lot of faith that he'll have a good game. He doesn't need to be Superman or anything, but he just needs to make the right play at the right moments, like he did against Alabama last year. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to pinpoint a player, but I'm going to say the defensive backs need to stay firm in this game for Georgia. If there's any weakness, I think that Ohio State's going to exploit. And I don't know if you'd call this a weakness, but just like anything, like it's the defensive backs for Georgia, as good as they are, it's the number one thing that Ohio State has to try to exploit. I think the deep passing game is something that they, in the right circumstances, could really exploit, especially with Marvin Harrison going downfield. If they want to beat Georgia, they're going to have to throw the ball. Simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say my two players for Georgia is I think their running back or any of the running backs that play. I know they have McIntosh,
That's true.
Edwards, and Milton, I believe. I think whoever their running back is, if they can get 5 yards a carry, then I think we lose because
That's
if
true.
if they're just running the ball down our throats and just having long drive after long drive in our offense, it's like let's say our offense is still like they're still going and they can score points, but if they're just taking 8 minutes off the clock for every drive that they have, then I think we still lose.
And I gotta interject real quick. The bigger X factor for Georgia is Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't come to mind first thing, but it's Brock Bowers. It has to be. If Georgia gets Brock Bowers going, oh man, it's gonna be a long day for the Ohio State defense. That's what I'm gonna say. But Brock Bowers he's an incredible player. He's pretty much because he's listed as a tight end, right?
Yeah, he's listed as a tight end.
He's like the Jimmy Graham of college football,
Yeah.
the Rob Gronkowski of college football, the Tony Gonzalez of college football, the Travis Kelce of college football. Like he's like their main weapon in the passing game. If they get him going, I might turn off the TV early, if you know what I mean. It might get out of hand. I'm hoping it doesn't, but yeah. What do you think the final score is going to be? How do you think the game's going to turn out?
Um, if I'm being realistic and I'm not being biased, I would say I think I'm gonna go Georgia 37, Ohio State 28.
Oh man, 37. It's an interesting score. You think we're going to be able to hold him to field goals?
I think we'll be able to hold them to a couple field goals. Obviously not a lot. I think it'll be an interesting game going into halftime. But I think Georgia will have the lead. I think Georgia will have the lead, something like 28 to like 14. But like we could have scored at halftime and made it like 28-21, something like that. Like
Gotcha.
one score game going into halftime. But like our offense just can't get going in the second half, and then Georgia, they just keep repeatedly kicking field goals because they can't get going either.
And the other thing too is I think if you're Georgia, you're kind of kicking yourself that you got matched up with Ohio State. Not because you aren't going to beat Ohio State, because they probably will, but because Ohio State matches up with Georgia better than TCU or Michigan does. I think the if I think about this game and how it's probably going to go, the first thing I'm going to say is I think Ohio State's going to be alive. They're going to have a pulse. They're going to give Georgia everything they got, and even if it's not enough, I think it will be enough to say they're going to put up a respectable performance. Now, the final score, I think there's going to be more points than people think. LSU managed to put up a lot of points on Georgia. Georgia managed to put up a lot of points on LSU. I think the final score I'm going to say is 45-35 Georgia. Just kidding. It's going to be 56-0 Ohio State. Also kidding. But yeah, I'll say 45-35 Georgia.
Yeah, if I was going with my homer pick, I would have picked Ohio State 48 and Georgia 30, but I'm not doing that. It just makes some people mad.
So I guess
But
we can move to the national championship because we both have the same picks if you want to do that.
yeah, so we got Michigan versus Georgia in the national
Unfortunately.
title game. Yeah, unfortunately. But what do you see happening in this game?
Oh man. Michigan probably wants it more. They'll probably play better than they did last season, but Georgia is a matchup nightmare for Michigan. If Georgia plays Michigan, I think Michigan will like stay alive for some time, but I think Georgia just would ultimately beat Michigan, probably by 14.
Yeah, I think this game might turn out like the Ohio State versus LSU national title game.
Yeah, 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 like 38-24.
Yeah, like they keep it close for a while, but like Georgia, I think they just get going with Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers and Kenny McIntosh, and like I think their defense, especially this year, last year, I feel like they could have just turned on a switch whenever they wanted to, but this year I feel like it's definitely a little bit harder to flip that switch, but like they can
True.
obviously still do it. So I think if they flip that switch against Michigan, I think they win. Relatively handily speaking, I mean like they win by like 10, but like it's a close game with like 10 minutes left to go.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. I have a lot of respect for this Michigan team. I have no respect for Jim Harbaugh or the fans. I'm also kidding when I say that. Um, but yeah, they're a well coached team, which I hate saying that. I really do. I hate saying that. They're a well coached team, they're a well disciplined team. They practice the fundamentals probably better than any other team in college football, including Georgia. But at the end of the day, I think Georgia's just a little bit better. There's a Stetson Bennett factor that I just don't get. I don't know how their offense has just been elevated with Stetson Bennett, because I don't want to say he's a system quarterback, but it feels like he's just like feels like he is, to an extent, like the perfect Georgia quarterback. He's got that attitude where he struggled to make it at Georgia and he went to JUCO and then he went back to Georgia, and now he's like just balling out. And but at the end
Yeah.
of the day, I think Kirby Smart is a little bit better than Jim Harbaugh as a coach right now. I think Georgia's a little bit better as a football team than Michigan. I think they match up better. Um, I think Georgia's a little bit more dynamic than Michigan. I think at the end of the day, I think Georgia will just win by 14, probably 38-24. I hate to use the same
Score is LSU.
score prediction, but yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like that kind of game. 34-20, 38-24, 31-17. 17's a bit low, so I'm going to
Yeah.
say 38-24.
In my opinion, Georgia is the team that you look at in the mirror, and but like you're scared of like your reflection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's what's happening for Michigan, and I feel like if they play Georgia, like I don't know, like they're like the same team, but I think Georgia's just better. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think Georgia probably wins this game. I'm gonna say it a little bit different. I'm gonna say 34. I think they get the same score they did last year, but I think Michigan scores 23.
Gotcha. Okay. And like thing about Georgia too is that, or Georgia and playing Michigan is that, like you said, they're just like a little bit better. It's like a little bit better. They're
Yeah,
similar teams, but they're a little bit better. And at least with Ohio State, even though Georgia's like more convincingly better than Ohio State than they are against Michigan, there's like a matchup component. Like Georgia has given up points in situations this season. And if there's any team that can like stretch it out against Georgia, it's Ohio State. Now, when Ohio State plays Michigan, there seems to be, I don't know what it is. It's like Michigan just seems, or Jim Harbaugh seems to be out coaching Ryan Day. And it didn't look like that in the first half, like when Ohio State played Michigan, like Ohio State was winning in the first half. They should have been winning by more, but there's just something about it. I don't know what it is. It's like Michigan hangs in there long enough to just get like a killer blow. You know what I mean? Like they'll be playing worse for 20 minutes, but the entire time they're playing consistent. And then after that 20 minutes is up, they land a punch. Um, but when it comes to Georgia and Michigan, Georgia's going to be the team that's landing the punches. They're similar, but they're a little bit better. And I think ultimately they're just going to win the national championship because of that.
but I have a little tidbit facts for you. Georgia, if they do win this national title, they would be the first team in the college football playoff era to win back-to-back national titles.
They're also probably going to be the first team to, no, they are the first team to have three neutral site games in Atlanta, Georgia in one season. That's crazy. That's not fair. We got to do something about these SEC teams having neutral sites in their own state, man. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's dumb.
Yeah, Oregon, Georgia, neutral site in Atlanta. I mean, come on now.
Like make it in like Indy or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Indianapolis. We need more neutral site games in the cold weather states.
Yes. Alrighty, man. I think we hit all the topics today.
I think we hit all the topics. And by the way, if you're a Georgia fan reading that last comment, we just like to have a little bit of fun, okay? We just like to have a little bit of fun. Some
Yeah.
respect for trash talk. We need that back in college football.
We're just trolling you, but
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Georgia's the best team. Georgia's probably going to win, and that's our prediction. At the end of the day, the SEC is still the best conference in college football, though. USC going to the Big Ten, maybe, just maybe we can change that for us Big Ten fans, but who knows?
alrighty. Well, there we go.
All right, I think we hit everything. We'll see you next time.